Good evening. This is Staff Sergeant Romo, and today I'll be briefing an unclassified mission brief. Purpose of the brief is to create a shared understanding for the sequence of events for our upcoming platoon ambush, where we will serve as a security element. Purpose of the ambush is to prevent the North Torbians from influencing our company's decisive operation. On the screen, you'll see an aerial footage of the general region we'll be operating in. We are now looking at a more zoomed-in version of the previous slide's terrain. Make sure to note the mountainous terrain, thick vegetation, and little infrastructure. Recent intel tells us that there's been a dismounted squad-sized element traveling along the 44th longitude north to southbound trail. The strength of the squad is unknown, however we do know that most of the trails and roads are said to be occupied by the North Torbians. Because of this, we'll be avoiding trails, roads, and any other major intersections. However, we will have to cross 2 trails. The overall movement is roughly 6.5 kilometers, and I expect it to take us 8 to 10 hours due to thick vegetation, summer heat, and restricted terrain. Additionally, we will have an attached gun team. Beginning at the starting point and traveling to checkpoint 1, we will be traveling down the hill, handrailing the draw to the south. We will know we have reached a checkpoint when we're at our lowest elevation in a valley bordered on our east and west by 2 mountains. We will be traveling approximately 700 meters on the azimuth of 119 degrees. Enemy contact is not likely. We will be traveling in a squad file due to the restricted terrain and moving using traveling. From checkpoint 1 to checkpoint 2, we will be traveling up a draw and following the ridge until we reach our highest elevation point. We will use elevation changes to ensure we remain on top of the draw and spur. Checkpoint 2 is located on the north end of the ridge, with our backstop being the decreasing of elevation. This segment is roughly 1,000 meters, and we will be traveling on an azimuth of 113 degrees. Enemy contact is still not likely, so we will keep the same movement techniques. From checkpoint 2 to checkpoint 3, we will continue down the saddle. After 600 meters, we will begin to transition from traveling to traveling overwatch and from squad file to squad column. This is because we will be crossing a known enemy-controlled trail where the enemy contact is likely. After successfully crossing the road, we will transition back from traveling back to traveling and squad file, as contact from the enemy is no longer likely. We will continue on this checkpoint to checkpoint 3, located on the saddle on the adjacent mountain. The movement is 1,100 meters, and we will be following an azimuth of 30 degrees. From checkpoint 3 to checkpoint 4, we will continue down the saddle, and we will once again have to cross a known enemy trail. We will transition from traveling to traveling overwatch and to squad wedge in order to safely cross the road where there is known enemy presence. After safely crossing the road, we will transition back to traveling and squad file. We will continue up the saddle. Overall, this segment is a movement of 800 meters on a 109 degree azimuth. From checkpoint 4 to checkpoint 5, we will be moving 600 meters on an azimuth of 75 degrees. We will use contour lines to ensure we stay at the same elevation. Additionally, we will handrail the 2 ridges as we navigate to checkpoint 5, which is on the saddle. We will continue in traveling and squad file. From checkpoint 5 to the ORP, this movement is 350 meters at 42 degrees azimuth. We will transition to a squad wedge and traveling overwatch as enemy contact is very likely. We'll handrail the road, traveling at a minimum of 100 meters away. This concludes my brief, pending any questions.